Mariah Carey has sold over 220 million records worldwide, making her one of the best-selling music artists of all time.
Well, at 22 years of age, Mariah Carey is on top of the music business. Her debut album, released a couple of years ago, sold more than 7 million copies, and her follow-up album was also a hit. Mariah Carey dropped by our studios today to talk about her apparent overnight success.
Mariah Carey.
Behind the glittering success lies a story of coercive control, mental breakdowns, and gritty survival that Hollywood doesn't want you to know about. Barely 2 years after fleeing an abusive marriage, Mariah suffered a complete mental breakdown that landed her in a psychiatric hospital.
When I spend a few minutes with the kids in the Fresh Air Fund, everything's gonna be okay.
She stripped on live television.
Where's my spot? I got a present for you.
Okay.
Wait, where am I supposed to stand for this?
Stand, I don't know. What are you doing here is the question.
I'm here. Can you hold this?
Yeah,
I
sure.
brought you a present. It's this shirt.
Yes, of course it does. What are you doing? Oh my God. What are you doing?
But the problem is, if you don't have ice cream in your...
Posted disturbing voice messages online, and her record label bought out her $80 million contract just to get rid of her. Her mother and sister died on the same day, with her sister dying of AIDS and organ failure after a long life of prostitution and drugs. She's earned over $300 million throughout her career and commands millions per performance. But behind the scenes, she was caged and brutally controlled by her first ex-husband, sued by both of her siblings, and caught up in a terrible sex scandal with famous rapper Eminem. She's also had her fair share of personally induced scandals when she cheated on her husband with a star athlete, had the kids with a much younger man, and has been vilified in the media as a diva and a crazy person. Even her brother had to put an ocean between them, showing how much he didn't want to be around her. Critics declared her career dead, calling her voice shot and her albums the worst of her career. Yet somehow, she clawed her way back to the top, proving that the music industry's attempts to destroy her only made her stronger. Was Mariah Carey a victim of an abusive industry that tried to control and silence her? Or did her own demons nearly destroy the empire she built? To understand how someone can fall so far and rise so high, we need to go back to the beginning. Mariah Carey was born on March the 27th, 1969, in Huntington, New York, to Patricia Hickey, a white opera singer of Irish descent, and Alfred Roy Carey, a black aeronautical engineer with African-American and Venezuelan roots. From the moment she entered the world, Mariah was caught between two different realities. Her mother's family completely disowned Patricia for marrying a black man, cutting them off from any support system. The racial tensions didn't stop there. While living in Huntington, their neighbors poisoned the family dog and set their car on fire, making it clear that this mixed-race family wasn't welcome. After her parents divorced, when Mariah was just 3 years old, she rarely saw her father and spent most of her childhood alone with her mother, who was struggling to make ends meet as a single parent. Patricia worked as a vocal coach and opera singer, but the money was never enough. Mariah's older sister Allison went to live with their father, while Mariah and her brother Morgan stayed with their mother in a series of small apartments. The loneliness was crushing for a young girl who just wanted to belong somewhere, but music became Mariah's escape. She started singing at age 3, imitating her mother's operatic performances, particularly her rendition of Verdi's Rigoletto in Italian. While other kids were playing outside, Mariah was inside perfecting her voice, developing the incredible range that would later make her famous. Her mother, despite being classically trained, never pushed opera on her daughter. Patricia recognized that Mariah had something special, a voice that could cross genres and touch people's hearts in ways that opera never could. During high school at Harborfields High School in Greenlawn, New York, Mariah was already living a double life. By day, she was a regular student writing poetry and lyrics. By night, she was working as a demo singer, often missing school to pursue her music career. She collaborated with musicians like Ben Margulies, co-writing songs and honing her craft while her classmates worried about prom and graduation. After graduating in 1987, Mariah knew she had to take the biggest gamble of her life. She moved to New York City with nothing but her voice and a dream. To survive, she worked multiple part-time jobs and even completed 500 hours of beauty school, just in case the music thing didn't work out. She crammed into a one-bedroom Manhattan apartment with 4 other girls, sleeping on couches and eating ramen noodles. But every rejection, every no, every door slammed in her face only made her more determined. She eventually landed a gig singing backup for freestyle singer Brenda K. Starr, which would change everything. Obviously, this great relationship would later become the reason for her success, because in December 1988, Brenda K. Starr brought Mariah to a music executive's party, where she would meet the man that changed her life. In a moment of pure courage, Mariah handed her demo tape to Tommy Mottola, the head of Columbia Records. Mottola listened to the tape on his way home and was so blown away that he immediately told his driver to turn around. By the time he got back to the party, Mariah had already left. He spent 2 weeks frantically searching for this mysterious girl with the incredible voice. When he finally found her, other record labels had already started a bidding war, but Mottola was obsessed. He didn't just want to sign Mariah Carey, he wanted to control her, shape her, and make her into his vision of the perfect pop star. Tommy Mottola, born in the Bronx in 1948, began his career as a singer under the name T.D. Valentine before transitioning into music management, where he found success managing acts like Hall and Oates. In 1988, he became the head of US operations for CBS Records, which later became Sony Music Entertainment. Mottola's tenure at Sony was marked by his keen eye for talent, signing and promoting artists such as Celine Dion, Destiny's Child, and Shakira. He signed her to Columbia Records and immediately put together a team of the industry's top producers: Rick Wake, Narada Michael Walden, and Rhett Lawrence. Columbia spent over $1 million promoting her debut album, an unheard of amount for a new artist at the time. Mariah's first public performance was at the 1990 NBA Finals, where she sang America the Beautiful.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Columbia recording artist Mariah Carey for the singing of America the Beautiful.
When she hit that impossible whistle note at the end, CBS Sports anchor Pat O'Brien declared, "The palace now has a queen."
The palace now has a queen, and the goosebumps will continue.
That moment announced to the world that something special had arrived. Her self-titled debut album didn't just succeed, it dominated. It spent 11 consecutive weeks at #1 on the Billboard 200, and incredibly, her first 5 singles all reached #1. Vision of Love, Love Takes Time, Someday, I Don't Wanna Cry, and Emotions. No artist had ever achieved this feat before, and no one has done it since. But while the world saw a grass to grace success story, behind the scenes, Mariah was becoming a prisoner of her own success. Tommy Mottola wasn't just her record executive, he was becoming her obsession. Their professional relationship quickly turned personal, and in 1993, they married in a lavish $500,000 ceremony at St. Thomas Church in New York City. The wedding looked like a dream, but it was the beginning of Mariah's nightmare. Mottola moved Mariah into a custom-built mansion on a 51-acre estate in Bedford, New York. The house was supposed to be a paradise, but Mariah called it Sing Sing, after the famous prison. The name said everything about how she felt. Mottola controlled every aspect of her life. Who she could see, where she could go, what music she could make.
And so I didn't feel like I could just put my foot down and have a tantrum and say, well, I want this song to come out, or I want this type of video, or I don't want to wear my hair curly tonight, or I don't want to wear a dress down to the floor and up to the neck, you know what I mean? It was like sort of, you know, I would fight, but I would always give in because it was easier than just having a constant battle.
Were you a bird in a cage?
I guess people have said that, you know. I mean, there are good and bad moments in everything, you know.
Without him, would you be where you are today?
I believe so.
He had security following her everywhere and monitored her phone calls. For a woman who had fought so hard for her freedom and success, this golden cage was suffocating. The control extended to her music. While Mariah was co-writing and co-producing her albums, proving she was much more than just a pretty voice, the industry kept trying to put her in a box. By 1991, Mariah had proven herself as a real force in the music world. People loved her voice and respected her songwriting skills. But when fans and critics expected her to go on tour like most new artists, Mariah had other plans. She was honest about her concerns. Her songs were so hard to sing that doing show after show would be nearly impossible. The constant travel and back-to-back performances could ruin her voice. Instead of touring, Mariah did something smart. She used that time to start working on her second album, Emotions. She began writing new songs around the same time her third single, Someday, came out in December 1990. Back then, most artists waited 2 years between albums. They'd release singles, do TV shows, go on tour, and then put out their next album. This gave fans time to really get to know the music and buy the older album when the new one came out. But Sony had different ideas for Mariah. They wanted to go back to the old 1960s way of doing things, releasing a new album every single year. Sony executives thought Mariah's reputation as a studio worm, who had been writing songs since she was young, would be exciting enough to keep fans interested with more frequent releases. As Mariah started working on Emotions, something terrible happened with Ben Marglis, the guy who had helped her write 7 of the 11 songs on her first album. All of those songs had been on the demo tape that got her discovered, but their partnership was about to explode in the worst way possible. The problem went back to a contract Mariah had signed before she ever got famous. When she was young and writing songs in Ben's father's basement, she had agreed to split everything 50-50 with him. Not just the money from the songs they wrote together, but half of all her earnings from everything. Back then she was just a nobody hoping to make it, so she didn't think twice about signing it. But now that she was successful, Sony made it clear they weren't going to honor that crazy contract. They told Ben he would only get paid what normal co-writers get. Nothing more. Ben didn't like this one bit. He sued Sony, claiming his contract meant he should get to keep working with Mariah and get all those extra benefits he was promised. The lawsuit dragged on for almost a year. When it finally ended, the judge decided Ben would get 10% of Mariah's direct record sales money, but nothing from her other business deals. Even though the legal fight was over, the friendship was destroyed. Mariah felt like Ben had betrayed her by suing instead of trying to work things out. In an interview, Mariah admitted she had made a mistake. "I signed blindly. Later, I tried to make it right so we could continue, but he wouldn't accept it." Ben, on his side, still hoped they could write together again someday. He blamed the record company for the whole mess and concluded by expressing his hopes that one day, art would prevail over business. But as time would have it, this was not Mariah's only challenge. Somewhere in California, 13-year-old Christina Williams, an avid Mariah Carey fan, had gone missing. Christina was a passionate music lover who sang in her school choir at Fitch Middle School in Seaside, California. She had a gift for both singing and writing, talents that reflected her artistic soul. But perhaps most telling of her musical dreams was her bedroom wall, decorated with several pictures of her idol, Mariah Carey. On Friday evening, June 12, 1998, Christina asked her exhausted mother, who was resting on the sofa after a long day at work, if she could take her dog Greg for a walk. Those would be the last words Christina Williams would ever speak to her family. When she failed to return after what should have been a 10 to 15-minute walk, her family grew concerned. Their worry turned to panic when Greg came home alone, dragging his leash behind him. What followed was one of the most extensive missing person searches in the area's history. The case quickly gained national attention, particularly after being featured on America's Most Wanted. Police received over 10,000 tips, used satellite photos, and even consulted psychics in their desperate search for answers. As Christina's case gained national prominence, several celebrities stepped forward to help. Among them were Clint Eastwood, Reggie Jackson, and most significantly for the Williams family, Mariah Carey herself. These celebrities filmed public service announcements to help spread awareness about Christina's disappearance. For the Williams family, Mariah Carey's involvement held special significance. Christina was a devoted fan who idolized the singer, relating to her as a positive biracial influence in music. The pictures of Mariah Carey on Christina's bedroom wall testified to the depth of her admiration. When Christina's sister participated in filming the PSA with Mariah Carey, she later described it as one of the most bittersweet moments of her life. While she was grateful for the support, the circumstances were heartbreaking, meeting her sister's idol because Christina had vanished.
On June 12th, Christina Williams was abducted while walking her dog in Monterey County, California.
This child was abducted. She's 13 years old.
I'm sure everybody out there can totally sympathize with the grief that Christina's family is going through.
The family found comfort in the celebrity support, with Christina's mother noting the outpouring from the community doing whatever they could to support them. Mariah Carey's participation was particularly meaningful because Christina had hoped to walk in the footsteps of her hero and become a singer in the future. After 7 months of searching, the worst fears were confirmed. On January 12, 1999, exactly 7 months to the day after Christina's disappearance, a university student surveying plants in the area discovered human remains buried under thick brush. The victim was identified through dental records as Christina Williams. In a cruel twist of fate, Christina's remains were found on her mother Alice's birthday, making an already devastating day even more heartbreaking. Mariah Carey released a statement that day, sending her condolences to the entire Williams family. Christina was gone, and there was nothing Mariah could do except to go on and honor her memory by having a noteworthy career. With Ben out of the picture, Mariah had to find new people to work with. Luckily, Sony gave her much more control over emotions than they had with her first album. Mottola suggested she work with Robert Clivillés and David Cole from CC Music Factory, the dance music duo. After meeting them, Mariah agreed and ended up writing 4 songs with them. The way they worked was different from what she was used to. They would bring her different beats and melodies that were already started, and she would build on them and write the words. One of the coolest partnerships happened when legendary songwriter Carole King reached out to Mariah. King had seen her perform on the Arsenio Hall show and was so impressed that she wanted to work together. King suggested Mariah should cover "You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman," a song King had written for Aretha Franklin. But Mariah turned it down. She felt too intimidated to try to redo something Aretha had made perfect. King wouldn't give up though. She flew to New York for just 1 day to try to write something new with Mariah. They sat at a piano together from morning until night, and by the end of the day, they had created If It's Over. After working together, King said, "I love her voice. She's very expressive. She gives a lot of meaning to what she sings." Mariah developed a unique way of working with Walter Afanasieff that became really special to her. They would sit at the piano together and she would start singing different notes and melodies that popped into her head. He would follow her on the piano, helping guide her to the right notes while she helped guide him musically. It was like a musical conversation where they fed off each other's energy. Mariah said their working relationship was very unique and reminded her a bit of how she used to work with Ben Margulies, but without all the drama and legal problems. With C Music Factory, things worked differently. They would bring her tracks that were already partially finished, and she would add her voice and lyrics to complete them. The Emotions album ended up being a showcase of everything Mariah could do. The most personal song on the album was Make It Happen, where Mariah told her own story about being poor and struggling as a teenager before getting signed to Columbia. When he played it for Mariah, it inspired her to write lyrics about a friend who died in a drunk driving accident. It was a beautiful and tragic way to end the album. Emotions proved that Mariah was much more than just a powerful voice. She was a songwriter who could work across different genres: disco, gospel, R&B, jazz, and pop. Most importantly, she had survived the betrayal and legal battle with Ben Margulies and come out stronger. The album showed that Sony's strategy of releasing music more frequently could work, but it also revealed the personal cost of success. Friendships could be destroyed by contracts and money, but through it all, Mariah's music remained honest and powerful, turning her pain and experiences into songs that connected with millions of people. As a result of all that, her second album, Emotions, was so polarizing that it had critics standing on opposite sides of the scale in their opinions. On one hand, it was criticized as calculated and lacking originality, even though it showcased her incredible songwriting abilities. Rolling Stone critic Rob Tannenbaum wrote, "While it sustains her stature as a pop goddess, Emotions demonstrates the hazards of such calculations." He went on to write a scathing article ending by saying, "Carey has a remarkable vocal gift, but unfortunately, her singing has been far more impressive than expressive." At the end, he rated the album a 2 out of 5. On the other hand, Dennis Hunt from the Los Angeles Times said Carey's spectacular and impressive voice was comparable to that of Whitney Houston, but criticized the songwriting and production for playing high on the angst scale. He said, "Most of the time she's either playing the wounded lover or she's groveling at some guy's feet. The lyrics are embarrassingly overripe, often sounding like bad high school poetry." In retrospect, nearly 24 years after its release, Emotions has now become the subject of much critical acclaim, with AllMusic editor Ashley S. Patel calling the record a musical journey and strong follow-up to Carey's first album. Patel named Emotions and Make It Happen as the album's highlights, saying that Carey had successfully replicated her formula. She finally ended by saying, "The one emotion that prevails upon completion of the album is definitely a positive one: satisfaction." A fan, Adam Dellin, went on to call the album a masterpiece. He said, "This is definitely one of Mariah Carey's best albums. It makes you wish she had never gone pop with Music Box. Not that that isn't a great album, and had kept making this beautiful soul music. At the time, it was abundantly clear that critics and executives wanted her to be a traditional pop ballad singer, but Mariah had other plans. She wanted to incorporate R&B and hip-hop, reflecting her true musical influences and her mixed-race identity. This became a major battle during the creation of Music Box in 1993. The album was deliberately crafted to be more commercial and pop-friendly, but it felt like a step backward for Mariah creatively.
But the most important thing is to make good music that I'm proud of. I definitely wanted to let my voice shine through as the lead instrument more than covering up what I do with a lot of unnecessary production.
While it became her best-selling album with over 28 million copies sold worldwide, she knew she was compromising her artistic vision to satisfy executives who didn't understand her. The breakthrough came with 1995's Daydream, where Mariah finally started asserting creative control. With her remix featuring Old Dirty Bastard and her release of One Sweet Day, Mariah was proving that she could write, produce, and perform across genres while maintaining her incredible vocal abilities. But every success made her marriage more strained. Mottola wanted to keep her under his heavy thumb, while Mariah wanted to explore her full artistic range. The tension reached a breaking point during the creation of 1997's Butterfly. This album was Mariah's declaration of independence. She worked with hip-hop producers like Sean Combs, Q-Tip, and Missy Elliott, completely abandoning the pop ballad formula that had made her famous. The album's title track was about transformation and freedom, and the music video for Honey showed a sexier, more confident Mariah who wasn't asking anyone's permission. Critics called Butterfly her best album, praising its mature themes and sophisticated production. This was a far cry from the innocent image Columbia had been pushing, but the personal cost was enormous. In December 1996, Mariah and Tommy separated, announcing their divorce publicly in May 1997.
The singer is separating from her husband, Sony music president Tommy Mottola, on a trial basis. That according to publicists for the pair. They were married in June 1993. Publicists say the couple remain friends and will continue their business relationship. Carey has recorded most of her biggest hits on the Sony label.
However, the split wasn't just personal, it was a business battle that would define the rest of Mariah's career. After the divorce was finalized in March 1998, Mariah sold the Bedford mansion to billionaire Nelson Peltz for $20,500,000. In a twist of fate, the house burned down in 1999, almost like the universe was erasing that painful chapter of her life. But Mariah's problems were just beginning. Free from Mottola's control, but still under contract with Columbia, she had to navigate the music industry as a newly single woman trying to prove she was more than just Tommy's creation. Her personal life became tabloid fodder as she dated New York Yankees shortstop Derek Jeter from 1997 to 1998, followed by a 3-year relationship with Latin singer Luis Miguel. The Derek Jeter relationship was particularly scandalous because it began while Carey was still technically married to Tommy Mottola, though they had separated. The affair created a media frenzy as it involved 2 of the biggest celebrities of the 1990s, the world's most famous female pop star and the captain of the New York Yankees during their championship era. Carey later credited Jeter as the catalyst who convinced her she could leave her controlling marriage to music executive Tommy Mottola. The tabloids seized on every detail of their clandestine romance. Carey revealed they met at a dinner party and began secretly texting, eventually sharing a clandestine kiss on the rooftop of his apartment building. She described feeling like she was taking a major risk every time she saw him, but that it felt worth it. The relationship was so significant that it inspired the lyrics to 2 of Carey's biggest hits, The Roof and My All. What made the relationship particularly tabloid-worthy was the secretive nature and high stakes involved. Carey was emerging from what she later described as an emotionally abusive marriage to one of the most powerful men in the music industry, while Jeter was at the height of his baseball career with intense media scrutiny. They were considered the it couple of the 90s whose story ended too soon. The media portrayed her as a diva who dated athletes and musicians, but those who knew her saw a woman trying to figure out who she was outside of the controlling relationship that had defined her early career. The transition from Jeter to Luis Miguel created another media sensation. Carey met the Mexican superstar in 1998 in Aspen, Colorado, reportedly on a blind date while she was in the process of divorcing Mottola. Their relationship from 1998 to 2001 was characterized by the tabloids as extravagant and over-the-top, matching the personas of 2 of the world's biggest Latin and pop music stars. Carey acknowledged in interviews that because they were both singers, they understood each other's challenges. even as tabloids printed information that could tear them apart. The media coverage included speculative headlines about an extravagant romance that was jealousy-driven or unrequited, creating a constant stream of gossip that followed the couple throughout their 3-year relationship. The romance became perfect subject matter for tabloids and gossip magazines because of all the dramatic elements involved: 2 international superstars, lavish lifestyles, and the cultural fascination with a high-profile Anglo-Latino celebrity couple. The relationship reportedly ended in 2001 amid alleged infidelities and busy schedules, with reports that Carey took the breakup particularly hard and went through a deep depression. Both relationships demonstrated how Carey's personal life became inseparable from her public image during this period, with every romantic encounter dissected by the media and used to sell magazines and generate headlines. The pressure was building towards something catastrophic. In 2001, Mariah signed an unprecedented $80 million 5-album deal with Virgin Records, the largest recording contract ever given to a female artist at the time. The deal came with enormous expectations and pressure to deliver a blockbuster album. The project was Glitter, both a movie and soundtrack set in the 1980s post-disco era, giving Mariah complete creative control for the first time in her career. But creative freedom came at the worst possible time. Mariah was struggling with undiagnosed bipolar disorder, dealing with the aftermath of her divorce, and facing enormous pressure to justify the massive Virgin contract. In July 2001, everything fell apart. She started posting disturbing messages on her website, behaving erratically in public, and showing signs of a complete mental breakdown. The most infamous incident happened on the July 19th, 2001, when Mariah made a surprise appearance on MTV's Total Request Live. During a commercial break, she came out pushing an ice cream cart while wearing an oversized men's shirt. What followed was bizarre and heartbreaking. She began removing her shirt in what appeared to be a striptease, revealing a tight outfit underneath. Host Carson Daly and the audience watched in shock as one of the world's biggest stars seemed to completely lose control on live television.
Am I supposed to stand for this?
Stand? I don't know. What are you doing here is the question.
I'm here. Can you hold this?
Yeah, sure.
I brought you a present. It's this shirt.
Yes, of course it does. What are you doing? Oh my God. What are you doing?
Cream truck. Come on.
I was just going to commercial.
I can't push this thing. Hold on.
What are you talking about? What are you doing here? If you're just joining us, Mariah Carey just walked in wearing a t-shirt pushing an ice cream bin. Unannounced to me.
Days later, Mariah posted strange voice notes on her website, rambling and incoherent messages that worried fans and industry insiders.
It's a really great place for me to be in. It's one of my first nights in the apartment, as you know. I think you got my other message. But what I wanted to say is, and not to have a spiraling cry fest here, but I'm just like, I'm sitting here, I'm awake, and I'm like, you know, hanging out with the dogs and whatever, alone for once. And I'm looking at these letters, just like some of the letters that I've gotten from you guys. And I want you to know that, yeah, I don't know, you make me cry because I'm not in a bad way at all, but just that I really feel blessed to be in this position, and just to hear anybody tell me that I helped them through anything.
On July 26, 2001, she was hospitalized due to what was officially described as exhaustion and a physical and emotional breakdown. She was admitted to a psychiatric facility in Connecticut and remained under doctor's care for 2 weeks, followed by an extended absence from public life. The timing couldn't have been worse. Glitter was scheduled for release on September 11th, 2001, the same day as the terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center. The movie and soundtrack were both critical and commercial disasters.
Hey, Billy. Hey, can you repeat that verse that Silk just did? Yeah, just for the backup.
Okay.
Turn Silk way down, bring Billy all the way up.
Critics called it an absolute mess and an annoying blemish on her career. The soundtrack became her lowest-selling album to that point, and Virgin Records bought out her contract for $28 million, essentially paying her to go away. At this point, so many people thought Mariah Carey's career was over. After signing with Island Records for $24 million, she tried again with Charm Bracelet in 2002, an album that critics savaged, Critics wrote her obituary, saying her voice was shot and she could no longer perform the vocal gymnastics that made her famous. Stephen Thomas Erlewine from AllMusic rated the album 2.5 out of 5 stars, saying, "Whenever she sings, there's a raspy whistle behind her thin voice and she strains to make notes throughout the record. She cannot coo or softly croon, nor can she perform her trademark gravity-defying vocal runs. Her voice is damaged, and there's not a moment where it sounds strong or inviting." Rating Charm Bracelet, 2 out of 5 stars. Barry Walters from Rolling Stone wrote that none of the songs were bold, but that the lack of hooks made the album weak. These harsh reviews marked a particularly low moment in Mariah's life. But those critics didn't understand what she was really going through. In 2018, she finally revealed that she had been diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder in 2001, the same year as her breakdown. For 17 years, she kept this diagnosis private, managing her condition with therapy and medication while the world speculated about her mental state. The 2001 breakdown wasn't a career-ending meltdown. It was a medical crisis that she survived and learned to manage. The comeback began slowly with 2005's The Emancipation of Mimi. Working with producers like Kanye West, Jermaine Dupri, and the Neptunes, Mariah created what she called very much like a party record. The album's second single, We Belong Together, became what critics called her return to form, with some calling it the return of the voice. The song spent 14 non-consecutive weeks at #1, becoming the second longest running #1 song in US chart history behind her own One Sweet Day. But here's one fun fact you might not have anticipated. The wedding dress used in the We Belong Together music video was from her first marriage with Mottola.
The wedding dress was a Vera Wang original dress from a while ago that I actually wore on a certain occasion and had it in storage. And when we came up with the concept for the video to have the element of a wedding in it, I said, well, I do have my old wedding dress. It's still weird to me because I can't believe I was ever married, but whatever, that's another story. I knew that we wouldn't be able to get a fabulous dress like in 2 days, so I just took that dress out of storage, and it has a 27-foot train, and it was just all hand beaded and stuff, so I figured I might as well get some use out of it.
This lent so much richness and added an extra layer to the artistic exploration involved in the making of the video, especially considering that her ex-husband had tried to control her before she emancipated herself by filing for a divorce. Billboard named We Belong Together the song of the decade and declared it the most popular song of the 2000s. The success was vindication for everyone who had written off Mariah Carey. The Emancipation of Mimi became 2005's best-selling album in the United States, the first album by a solo female artist to achieve this since Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill in 1996. Mariah had proven that not only was she still relevant, she was still dominant. But perhaps the most revealing aspect of Mariah's story is how the industry treated her compared to male artists who had similar struggles. When male musicians have breakdowns or struggle with mental health, they're often celebrated for their authenticity and artistic integrity. Daniel Johnston was a singer-songwriter whose lo-fi recordings and deeply personal lyrics earned him a cult following. Despite battling bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, Johnston's raw artistry was often romanticized. His mental health challenges, including a psychotic episode that led to a plane crash, were seen as part of his mystique. The music industry and fans alike viewed his struggles as a testament to his genius, rather than a reason for concern. Johnston's work was celebrated, and his legacy remains influential in indie music circles. Chester Bennington, the lead singer of Linkin Park, openly discussed his battles with depression and substance abuse. His candidness about his mental health was met with empathy and support. Bennington's struggles were seen as a brave confrontation of personal demons, and his music was lauded for its emotional depth. Following his tragic death by suicide, the industry mourned him as a lost voice and highlighted the importance of mental health awareness. Charles Hamilton, a rapper known for his freestyle skills and unique production, faced significant mental health challenges, including bipolar disorder. After a series of public incidents and a stint in a psychiatric hospital, Hamilton's career suffered. However, over time, he received support from fans and some industry figures who recognized his talent and the importance of addressing mental health in hip-hop. But when Mariah showed vulnerability, she was called difficult, crazy, and a diva. The same industry that profited from her talent was quick to discard her when she needed support the most. This treatment reflects a broader pattern of how female artists, especially women of color, are treated in the music industry. Mariah has always been proud of her songwriting and producing abilities, co-writing 18 of her 19 #1 hits and producing 15 of them. Yet she's rarely given credit for being one of the most successful songwriter-producers in music history. Instead, the focus is often on her vocal range, her personal life, or her perceived diva behavior. Other female artists who write and produce their own music, from Lauryn Hill to Missy Elliott to Alicia Keys, have faced similar challenges getting recognition for their behind-the-scenes work. The industry is more comfortable celebrating women as performers than as the creative forces behind their own success. Mariah's case is particularly striking because she's been writing and producing hits for over 3 decades, yet many people still don't realize the extent of her creative control. Mariah's personal relationships have also been scrutinized in ways that male artists rarely experience. Perhaps the most epic of all is her drawn-out feud with Eminem. In the early 2000s, Eminem claimed that he and Carey had dated for about 6 months, stating in interviews and songs that their personalities clashed and that she was a diva. Carey, however, consistently denied a romantic relationship, asserting that they had only met a few times and that she did not consider those interactions as dating. Even when she came onto the Oprah show to publicly deny the rumors, they didn't end right away.
Okay, so what was going on between you and Eminem, if anything?
Nothing. Look, I talked to him, I have spoken to him a few times, whatever, but in terms of me having like an intimate relationship with men, I can name them all on one hand, and he ain't on the hand. Less than one hand, okay? He is not on the hand.
The dispute escalated through their music. Eminem released tracks like Superman and Bagpipes from Baghdad, which included explicit and derogatory references to Carey and her then-husband Nick Cannon. Carey responded with the song Clown, denying any intimate relationship and criticizing Eminem's portrayal of their interactions.
I think that a lot of girls can relate to the song Clown because we've all, experienced tomfoolery with men. So it's kind of like, it's not that serious of a song, but in a way, it's kind of, it's poignant to a lot of girls because we've all dealt with clowns before.
In 2009, she released Obsessed, widely interpreted as a parody of Eminem, even dressing similar to him in the music video, which prompted him to retaliate with The Warning, a track containing explicit claims and threats to release private voicemails.
Only reason I dissed you in the first place is because you did not see me. Now I'm pissed off. Sit back, homie, relax. In fact, grab a 6-pack, kick back while I kick facts. Yeah, Dre, sick track, perfect way to get back. Wanna hear something wick-wack? I got the same exact tat that's on Nick's back. I'm obsessed now. Oh, geez, that's supposed to be me in the video with the goatee? Wow, Mariah, didn't expect it to go balls out. Bitch, shut the f*** up before I put all them phone calls out. You made it my house when you was wildin' out.
This public back and forth highlighted a double standard in media treatment. While Eminem's aggressive lyrics and public airing of personal details were often viewed as part of his artistic persona, Carey's responses were met with labels such as difficult, crazy, and diva.
You are? I'm Mariah. Sometimes do you feel like your life is a fairy tale?
I do feel like a fairy tale has its ups and downs and has its layered characters.
The word diva has been used for you.
Yeah.
You don't even shy away from that.
I thought it just meant something fabulous. And now everybody wants to make it into something else.
Where do you come down on it?
I don't take that as a disrespectful term. I don't care. They're like diva Mariah Carey. I'm like, all right, whatever.
The media's portrayal of Carey during this period often focused on her personal life and alleged instability, rather than her perspective or the content of her responses. This contrast underscores the differing standards applied to male and female artists in the industry, particularly regarding personal relationships and public disputes. Her marriage to Nick Cannon in 2008 was initially seen as another publicity stunt, partly because Nick was 11 years younger and primarily known as a comedian and TV host. They married on April 30th, 2008 in the Bahamas, and their relationship seemed genuine and happy in a way that her marriage to Tommy Mottola never was. The couple faced tragedy when Mariah suffered a miscarriage in 2008, something she kept private for years. But in 2011, at age 41, she gave birth to fraternal twins Moroccan and Monroe via cesarean section at 35 weeks. The joy of becoming a mother was something Mariah had wanted for years, and she embraced motherhood with the same intensity she brought to her music career. However, the pressures of their careers and different life goals eventually took their toll. In August 2014, Nick confirmed that they had separated, and he filed for divorce in December 2014, which was finalized in 2016. Despite the divorce, they've maintained a co-parenting relationship focused on their twins' well-being. Mariah's next major relationship was with Australian billionaire James Packer, whom she began dating in 2015. Their engagement in January 2016 seemed like another fairy tale, complete with a massive engagement ring and luxury vacations around the world. But by October 2016, they had called off the engagement, with reports suggesting differences in lifestyle and family planning. Her longest relationship post-divorce was with choreographer Brian Tanaka, whom she began dating in October 2016. Their 7-year relationship was more private and stable than her previous high-profile romances. Tanaka often appeared in her music videos and accompanied her on tours, suggesting a genuine partnership both personally and professionally. However, on December 26, 2023, Tanaka confirmed they had parted ways, citing the need to focus on their individual paths. Throughout all these relationships, Mariah has maintained that her priorities shifted dramatically after her 2001 breakdown. In 2006, she stated, "I do believe that I have been born again in a lot of ways. I think what I've changed are my priorities and my relationships with God. I feel the difference when I don't have my private moments to pray. I'm a fighter, but I learned that I'm not in charge. Whatever God wants to happen is what's going to happen. I feel like I've had endless second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth chances. It's by the grace of God, I'm still here." This spiritual awakening wasn't just talk. It fundamentally changed how Mariah approached her career and personal life. She became more selective about projects, more protective of her mental health, and more focused on her legacy as an artist rather than just commercial success. The woman who once felt trapped in a golden cage had learned to set boundaries and prioritize her well-being. The vindication of Mariah's career choices became most obvious with All I Want for Christmas Is You. Written in just 15 minutes in 1994, the song was initially dismissed by some as a throwaway Christmas track. But it became one of the most successful songs in music history, earning over $60 million in royalties and streaming billions of times every holiday season. The song's success proves that Mariah's instincts as a songwriter were always superior to the executives who tried to control her. In recent years, Mariah has embraced her status as a cultural icon while continuing to create new music. Her 2020 memoir, The Meaning of Mariah Carey, reached #1 on the New York Times bestseller list, giving her the opportunity to tell her story in her own words. The book revealed details about her childhood trauma, her abusive marriage to Tommy Mottola, and her struggles with mental health that fans had never heard before. But these details did not come without a cost. If anything, it completely shattered a family that was barely being held together by spit and glue. While Mariah Carey became famous for her amazing voice and hit songs, her 2 older siblings, a brother and sister, lived very different lives. And this would later be one of the major sources of conflict, only exacerbated by the launch of Mariah's memoir. Morgan and Allison Carey grew up in the same troubled house, but went down completely different paths. Their stories show how the same bad childhood can affect people in totally different ways. Morgan Carey was born on August 6, 1960, making him 8 years older than Mariah. He was the middle child of the 3 kids. Mariah says he was really handsome, and this helped him get work as a model in the early 1980s. He worked in Italy and eventually moved there for good. Beyond his work in fashion, Morgan was a celebrated fitness trainer and record producer, fitness trainer, entrepreneur, and former model. His diverse professional portfolio suggested a man of varied interests and talents, though he would remain largely in the shadows compared to his famous sister. Morgan introduced Mariah to songwriter Gavin Christopher, helping launch his sister's music career, a pivotal moment that would prove to be one of his most significant contributions to music history, albeit an indirect one. Per his 2021 lawsuit, Morgan and his wife Ilaria moved to Italy in 2012, where they've worked on 2 screenplays. This creative endeavor revealed another dimension to Morgan's artistic aspirations. At the time of the lawsuit, he was also writing a permaculture-based fitness and lifestyle book, suggesting his interests had evolved toward holistic living and environmental consciousness. However, Morgan's relationship with his famous sister would become increasingly complicated following the publication of her memoir. The violent incidents Mariah described, witnessing him in physical altercations with their parents during her childhood, painted a troubling portrait that Morgan vehemently denied. Morgan Carey sued his sister Mariah Carey for defamation in March after she included the details of an alleged altercation between him and their father in her memoir. The suit stems from claims Mariah made in her memoir, The Meaning of Mariah Carey. In detailing the situation, the outlet noted allegations made by Morgan that Mariah falsely accused him of being violent and dealing drugs during their childhood. He alleged that Mariah's libelous vitriol, yep, that's what he called it, was damaging to his and his wife's careers, as enthusiastic negotiations about their screenplay were abruptly and without explanation terminated. According to Variety, he claimed to have suffered in extreme mental anguish, outrage, severe anxiety about his future and his ability to support himself and his family, harm to his reputation and his earning capacity, embarrassment among his friends and associates, disruption of his personal life, and loss of enjoyment of the ordinary pleasures of everyday life. The lawsuit revealed not just personal hurt, but professional consequences. The public humiliation of Mariah's baseless and false attacks will forever color my professional and personal reputation, he claimed. But he was not the only one who felt that way. Allison Ann Carey was born on August 7th, 1961, just 1 year after Morgan and 9 years before Mariah. When their parents split up, 12-year-old Allison went to live with their dad while Mariah stayed with their mom. This early separation would affect their relationship for the rest of their lives.
Hi, I'm Allison Carey. Unfortunately, I'm living without teeth. I just don't have the money. It's almost impossible to get things done without teeth. That's all I really had to say.
Unlike her famous sister, Allison worked regular jobs her whole life. While she may not have achieved the same level of fame and success as her sister Mariah, Allison had worked in various jobs throughout her life, including as a waitress and a hairstylist. Her career path was markedly different from both her siblings, more grounded in service work and less ambitious in scope. Allison Carey stood at a height of 5 feet 6 inches, 168 centimeters. She had blonde hair and blue eyes, a physical description that highlighted the racial complexity within the Carey family, where siblings could present as different races despite sharing the same parents. Allison's life story, as portrayed in Mariah's memoir, was one of profound struggles and controversial choices. In plain terms, she told some really disturbing stories about Allison's treatment of young Mariah, including claims that she had exposed her 12-year-old sister to dangerous situations and inappropriate adults. Allison Carey's relationship with sister Mariah was at times strained, with the famous singer previously accusing Allison of trying to pimp her out at the age of just 12. Mariah's 2020 memoir also detailed more disgusting and harmful allegations against Allison, including claims that her older sister drugged her with Valium at age 12, caused her third-degree burns, and attempted to involve her with a pimp. These incidents allegedly occurred during a period when Allison, struggling with drug addiction and working as a sex worker, would make sporadic visits to their mother's home. The power dynamic between the sisters was complex. Allison, despite her troubled circumstances, could still wield authority as the older sibling over young Mariah. Yet this authority was wielded destructively, creating what Mariah described as a pattern of psychological manipulation masked as sisterly care. Allison would sometimes shower Mariah with attention and gifts, taking her shopping or fixing her hair, only to later subject her to traumatic experiences. The most disturbing allegation involved Allison's boyfriend John, a pimp who allegedly attempted to assault Mariah when she was alone with him. According to the account, this incident was orchestrated by Allison, who had promised to be present but deliberately wasn't, leaving her 12-year-old sister vulnerable to a dangerous adult predator. The drugging incident, which involved a full Valium pill given to an 80-pound child, demonstrated the casual disregard Allison had for her sister's safety. The burns occurred during what should have been an innocent tea party, when Allison threw boiling water on Mariah in a rage, requiring medical treatment and leaving permanent physical and emotional scars. These allegations sparked legal action, as Allison filed her own lawsuit against Mariah in February 2021, seeking $1.25 million for emotional distress caused by the memoir's portrayal of her. She disputed the characterization and claimed it was used primarily to generate book sales rather than to tell an honest story. But surely they must have had some weight, because Allison was arrested multiple times between 2015 and 2016 for prostitution. She was arrested twice within a 10-week span, including an incident on June 13, 2015, when she was taken into custody in Suffolk County, New York. after soliciting an undercover police officer at a boat marina, according to the Post. Allison was arrested again in August 2016 in upstate New York, also in connection with prostitution. Authorities told the Daily Freeman that during this incident, Allison attempted to solicit money for sexual acts from an undercover officer at a hotel. Law enforcement described her as a transient who had been advertising sexual services online. During her arrest, Allison informed the officers that she was Mariah Carey's sister. Mariah repeatedly tried to help Allison, paying for expensive rehabilitation treatments and supporting her financially. However, Mariah eventually referred to Allison as her ex-sister and described their relationship as emotionally and physically safer for her not to have any contact. Not long after this incident, Allison Corey was diagnosed with AIDS as well as multiple organ failure, likely brought on by her lifestyle choices. Allison Carey spent her final weeks in hospice, estranged from all her friends and family, suggesting her final period was marked by illness and medical care. By this time, Mariah's mother was also in hospice, living out her last days while bedridden from a terminal illness. However, when faced with a choice, Mariah went to be with her mom instead of her sister. As a result, Allison Corey died alone, with no one but her friend David by her side. The fact that both Allison and their mom died on the same day made an already sad situation even stranger and more tragic. The three Carey kids show how the same bad childhood can affect people in completely different ways. Mariah used her pain to make beautiful music and became incredibly successful. Morgan tried to reinvent himself through fitness, modeling, and eventually moved far away to Italy to write. Allison seemed to struggle more and had a harder time in life. Morgan clearly wanted privacy and stayed away from fame, even though his sister was one of the most famous singers in the world. But when Mariah wrote her book, he got dragged into the spotlight, whether he wanted it or not. As for Allison, she saw it as an opportunity to try to get money out of her estranged sister, despite having not seen her for many, many years. The lawsuits from both Morgan and Allison show how complicated family truth can be. Each person remembered their childhood differently. Each had their own version of what really happened in their house growing up. A judge threw out most of Morgan's lawsuit, but some parts remained, which suggests that while courts can decide some facts, the emotional truths between family members are much harder to figure out. The distance between the siblings says a lot about their relationships. Morgan moved all the way to Italy with his wife in 2012, putting an ocean between him and Mariah. When both their mom and Allison died on the same day in August 2024, it left just Mariah and Morgan as the only survivors of their immediate family. Whether this terrible loss might bring them back together, or whether the legal fights and public accusations have damaged their relationship forever, nobody knows. The book that was supposed to explain who Mariah really is ended up showing how fame can destroy family relationships. It showed how brothers and sisters who grew up in the same house can remember things completely differently and end up as strangers to each other. However, despite these tragic events, Mariah has stayed resolute in her search for happiness and fulfillment. Perhaps most importantly, she has used her platform to normalize conversations about mental health, particularly bipolar disorder. By sharing her diagnosis and treatment journey, she's helped reduce stigma and shown that mental health challenges don't have to end careers or define people's lives. Her openness has inspired countless fans who struggle with similar issues. A fan said, "As someone who deals with major depressive disorder and other concurrent disorders, I'm glad that Mariah was able to have the courage to come out and talk about mental health and use her celebrity to break down the walls and stigma around mental health. I find her lyrics relatable and deeply personal, and when she comes out and calls it out by name, it's even more powerful for me. It's saying, I'm not hiding who I am, it's a part of me. It's not all of me, but it's a part of me, and I'm proud of it, and I'm not ashamed of it anymore, and I'll talk about it to help others." Others also went on to express their pride, saying how much they admired her for coming out with her story. This person literally said, "I remember this. I admired her so much for coming forward with her story." Recently, Mariah has spent time touring the continent and giving super laid-back performances, the most recent of which was at the American Music Awards. Today, Mariah Carey stands as one of the most successful artists in music history, but her story is about much more than commercial achievements. It's about a mixed-race girl from Long Island who refused to be silenced, controlled, or diminished by an industry that tried to break her. It's about a woman who survived abuse, severe mental illness, and public humiliation to emerge stronger and more authentic than ever. She didn't just survive the music industry's attempts to destroy her, she rewrote the rules of what a female artist could be. And instead of succumbing to her messed up family's dysfunction, Mariah managed to make the best of the cards she was given. She made it to the top, stayed there for over 3 decades, and did it all while maintaining creative control and personal integrity. This is the story of the fascinating Mariah Carey.